Yeah, going live here on YouTube. Ping and sharing. See if there's anyone there. And by the way, I'm also going live. I'm also going live on my mobile phone. Hey guys, hello audience. Ooh, so many things. Now, just to let you guys know, I'm sharing on YouTube and I'm sharing on Instagram. And maybe I have to have another device and share live also on Facebook. That'd be awesome. So, arranging my screens. I'd like to share some thoughts today about light and perception. That's where I'm focusing lately, and I do believe that perception is the key. It's not only on how we use photography as a tool, but we must know how we are using photography, what purpose, and that's where perception gets really useful. If we don't know what you're doing, if we don't know where to go with this, what's the point of doing photography? Well, just for the fun. What's the main goal of it? Why are you so interested in photography or video? Why do you do it? And if you are doing for commercial purposes, for marketing, for example, yes, you have to pay attention to perception to understand how your message is getting interpreted on the other side, right? How is your client, the people that are watching your marketing ads or just watching your pictures, how do they interact with it? And to understand if you can channel from viewer to lead to client. That's the goal. I would say that perception, well, before sharing my thoughts, if you just go to Google or Wikipedia or search anywhere else, you'll find out that perception is the ability to see, hear, or become aware of something through the senses. That is very subjective already, very subjective. That's why I believe it is fundamental to understand perception. Another definition would be the way in which something is regarded, understood, or interpreted by Google. How I do this, one of my methods to explore perception is to shape the light. As a photographer, I have the responsibility to see light and to know how to transmit any information, not only using photographs, but using the power of perception, sharing while I'm sharing one image. And to take a picture, yes, equipment is essential to anything that records and tracks light. And that's exactly where I want to go, because it's not about the equipment, but it's about understanding the light and how light is important. Because if you don't have light, no matter what equipment you have, you cannot photograph it, you cannot capture it. That would be like the main obvious reason for the importance of light. And understanding light, we have to understand how to shape it. How can we change it? In what way, in order to make it more appealing? I mean, the image that we are seeing, more appealing, dramatic, emotional, depends very much on what you want. So like that. And for that, I use basically combinations of exposure, contrast, saturation, some other tricks as color combinations. We should use color combinations in our everyday life. When we are dressing up, why do I have a pink tie with a blue jacket? There's a reason. But if you go check how you use colors in your business, in your home, in your wardrobe, when you write in your notebooks, etc. All of that has a meaning, a reason, and it is or can be emotional and also can be spiritual. It depends on your approach. Every chakra in our chakra system, every energy level, every chakra has a color associated, because a color means a different vibration. Light is a electromagnetic wave with a frequency, and when we change the frequency of it, we are changing the hue, the color. When we change, I mentioned hue is like the amount of radiation transmitted, but it's more easy if we just say it color for now. Let's stick with color, and we are going to get much simpler than this. We're going to call it, to see it just in black and white before going to color. And talking about black and white, there is this very nice concept created by Mr. Ansel Adams called the Gray System. Hello, Hugo. Então, Hugo, está tudo bem? Bem-vindo. Let me wave there. So, Ansel Adams, a nice, not only photographer, but he was, 19th, beginning of the 20th century, he created the zone system, and basically he divided in zones everything in between the full black and the full white. So full black would be zone 0, everything is black, pitch black is full 0, zone 0, and he divided this in 10 zones. So zone 10 would be completely white with no information at all, everything is white. So from the full black to the full white, we have another 8 zones. Zone 0 is full black, zone 10 is full white, so in the middle we have the grays. That's where the information is, actually. Everything happens in the gray zone. And funny or not, Gary Vee, one of the greatest entrepreneurs in our century, he also, if you follow them, you must know this, he also says that everything happens in the gray zone. And he's not talking about photography. That's so interesting. That's how things get so interesting. Analyzing light and perception, everything happens in the gray zone. So Mr. Ansel Adams, he divided that zone in 10, and now we have 8 zones of grayscale, and we can consider the middle ones the midtones. That's how we call them, the midtones. The highlights of it's everything that happens between the midtones and the whites. And the darks is everything that happens between the midtones and the dark. So if we visualize 10 zones, like 10 slices, 10 ranges between full black and full white, what we do when we are editing, for example, or when we are seeing light, is manipulating the amount of information that we want to transmit on each of these zones, on the midtones, highlights, shadows, darks, whites, call it whatever you want. It's you can say it darks, shadows, midtones, highlights, and whites. And on another hand, we must keep in mind that the contrast is how quick we go from a dark area to a bright area, is how quick we go in terms of distance. Seems a bit strange because I'm mixing distance with quick, when quick usually is related to time and speed. So I'd say that the shorter the distance between the darks and the whites, the higher the contrast is. The quickest we go from dark to white, the higher the contrast is. And if we don't have information at all in the grayscale, we go from black to white. That's the biggest contrast possible. On the other hand, we can have a very smooth, graduated grayscale from black to white. That's very soft. And this is the major key. The transition is soft. That's why we call it soft light. Because when we are using a soft light, my shadows are not well defined, meaning then from the dark to the whites, it's going to be a soft transition. We call the opposite hard light, or the light is harsh, and that means that the distance between the highlights and the darks it's very narrow. So when I have a hard light, and I have one here, my shadows are very, very defined. You can see the shadow of my finger on my face. Like the transition between the dark area, the shadow, and the non-shadow area, it's well defined. The contrast is high in that zone because I'm using a hard light, and I'm creating. That means that I'm creating a hard contrast. If I'm using a soft light, meaning that my shadow is more subtle. The transition between the dark areas and the highlights is subtle. That's why we call it soft. And the softener the light is, the flattener, more flattened will look, more usually more glamorous and soft will look in the images, and will look good. But if you are looking for high fashion or dramatic contrast or whatever, you might want some hard light to enhance whatever you're trying to transmit. And this loop comes again to the perception of and light. So it depends on what you want to transmit to your viewer. Are you trying to transmit a hard message with drama, intensity, or do you want to transmit a soft image, a soft look, soft sensation? So based on that, now you know if you should use a soft light or a hard light. That's how perception and light are connected, also with the message we want to transmit. Because if we don't know what we want to transmit, we don't know what type of trick to use, what type of perception to use and manipulate in order to transmit the proper message. There's another side of it, is that every emotion comes into place. Well, not every emotion. When we use perception in terms to send a message, and we are using soft or hard light or other tricks and stuff, we are triggering emotions inside of the viewer. And with emotions can also come memories. We can create or access memories through emotions. In the most dramatic way, we call it traumas, but they can also be used in a good way. That's why photography is so interesting in using this perception with light in order to touch, to pop up or to touch some emotional side of the viewer. And if we can have extra impact with that, we can plant our seeds in their memories. And that's why this is so important for marketing. That's why an image is worth than 1,000 words, because we can manipulate and touch the emotional part of the human being. You can even touch the spiritual side of it. If we go more spiritual with the way you use an image and use perception and light to focus or to target that spiritual side, that would be an interesting conversation for another day. I'm about to hit the 15-minute mark, and yeah, it is super interesting. I would love to know your thoughts about it. Comment below what you think about perception. How do you use it, and how do you use light to manipulate perception? I haven't yet even talked about color manipulation, color contrast, meaning of colors, contrasts of scenery with the model. I can talk about the posing of the model and how that influences the perception of the image if I'm photographing a model. There are so many things in photography when creating one image that we can change and manipulate in order to use perception in our advantage and transmitting the right message to the viewers. That is mastery. I do pay attention to light, all sorts of definitions of light, from intensity to shape, hard, soft, color. I pay attention to the background, the colors of the background, the texture, what types of texture is my model wearing, what color palette are we using for the editorial, if that's an editorial. That includes talking with the makeup artists and let her or him know what color to use, with how much impact. Then we go to the posing of the model. Strong, soft. Let's look for contrast and perception. What is the idea? And then think about the composition of the image, the framing. Should I use the rule of thirds? Should I center my subject? Should I use the golden triangle, the golden spiral? What am I trying to do here? What is the message? Should I leave a negative space in front? Should I leave a negative space behind? I want to transmit confidence. I want to transmit loss. I want to transmit fragility. What am I trying to transmit? So all of this is very important when we are creating an image. It's not just point and shoot. There are lots of things if you really want to create a powerful image with meaning. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the best image in the world and you're going to win the next Hasselblad Masters or whatever prize we're trying to have, because again, perception is the key. When you applying, by the way, when you are applying to a contest, you are applying to a contest and someone will see that image. There'll be a jury, and their perception of your image is not the same perception that you have or I have. So I might think that you can be the winner of the contest, but the other person, the jury, doesn't think so, because that is subjective on my life experience, on my tastes, on my values. Yeah. So I do believe, and I will also enter that race for award, so I can have reward and have more public social proof. But that's not for me. That's eventually for the business itself. As a person, I don't need external recognition, because I understand that it depends on the perception everyone has about my work or myself. So, but yeah, we'll be talking about more life coaching instead of photography if we follow that path. But you can ask me anything, 18 minutes already. So if you saw this, you are a warrior. Thank you very much. Comment below, I'm a warrior, so I can know that. Now get in touch. And it's been super interesting doing this, and I want to keep doing this. So I will keep exploring this perception and light, and hopefully I'll have more people on board sharing this and interacting and building something great. Thank you very much for being there. And ciao.